Welcome to Digitally Overwhelmed, the podcast for female founders and business owners who have an impactful vision and exciting goals for their company, but are tired of feeling overwhelmed by their SEO, Google Analytics, and the ever-changing landscape of digital marketing. Join host Cynthia Pacheco as she navigates the digital landscape and provides actionable tips and strategies to help you grow your business meaningfully. No digital burnout required. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hey there, welcome to another episode of the Digitally Overwhelmed podcast. Super happy to have you here. This is my space for sharing all things digital marketing, SEO, online business, but also sharing real life around, maybe identity shifts, phases in life where we're changing things are happening, and becoming a mom, or maybe for some of you having like someone new coming into our life and figuring out how to, embrace this new phase of our business and how it supports us in this part, right? And so today's conversation is with Cassandra Vantriet. I've actually had her on the podcast a few times, which is, I love these repeat guests. And Cassandra's just really special because she actually has been a client for Digital Bloom IQ. We've done the SEO for her previous business, Whoosh. And so in this episode, we talk a little bit about Whoosh, but also just about this pregnancy planning and maternity leave planning, which for me was, personally, before my daughter was born, it was hard. It was really hard because my business is my first baby. And so I just had no idea how to approach this phase of life and business. And I just didn't know how to visualize again, what would this look like? So Cassandra, I feel, has so much wisdom, and I just love her energy. And she shares her own pregnancy as well as maternity planning journey. And at the time of the recording, she was about 37 weeks pregnant. So really fascinated. And I really found all her thoughts and kind of reflections helpful, whether you are listening to this and you're maybe pregnant or planning a pregnancy, or maybe you already have a baby and you're still figuring out how to plan it all. And that's great. It's all good. And maybe it's not even about a baby. It's just this new phase of life, which I think a lot of us just have different chapters and different moments. And so learning to embrace and plan and not get attached always to the plan. I think that's the biggest thing. So as always, you can find more detailed show notes on the website. If you go to digitalbloomiq.com/podcast, you'll find this episode and all the other episodes. And yeah, I'm really looking forward for you to listen to this incredible conversation with Cassandra. Enjoy. Hey, Cassie, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Oh, I'm so excited to be chatting with you. I think this is your third a podcast episode with me.
I think so. Yeah, I'm excited to be back. And all of our podcasts have been such different topics. So I'm really excited about this one. So thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I've had a lot of my audience and clients ask me about the mom journey, right? And this is definitely not a mom podcast. Maybe some of you are listening for the first time. This is a marketing podcast. But I feel like nowadays, when you have your own business, everything just gets mixed in. And what I experienced both during pregnancy and mom life really impacted what was coming out on the business side. And you're in the thick of it now. How many weeks pregnant are you?
I'm 37 weeks, just over. So yeah,
Right.
I agree with you on all the fronts. And it's just, it's a facet of kind of being, an entrepreneur and a business owner, and it takes a big portion of it. So I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess, how are you feeling at this stage of the pregnancy? Do you have a lot of symptoms? Are you like physically feeling, and how has it been up until now as well? Because I know first trimester and third trimester can be very different.
Yeah, honestly, I'm super grateful. I have had the most easeful pregnancy. It's been honestly such a joy. I've had first trimester was great. I did, experience some of the tiredness, some of the weird things that nobody ever mentions, like very vivid dreams, like very significant vivid dreams,
Fascinating.
um, which was super bizarre. And then, yeah, kind of waves of not being able to sleep through the night. Right
Yeah.
now, obviously, I'm like very short breaths just because the baby's so big and resting on my diaphragm.
I remember that. It's
Yeah.
like you can never
So,
talk.
no, I know. I'm like, if I'm going to get going, I'm like, I'm sure I'm going to be like huffing and puffing through the conversation. But yeah, honestly, it's been really useful and I'm super grateful for that. And yeah, there's been even days where I'm like, wow, I don't even feel pregnant, which is crazy. And then there's other days where, and kind of getting more into this last bit, it's kind of like enhanced my seasonal allergies, which has been the worst. So I'm a bit nasally. But other than that, it's been such a great journey so far, and I'm really grateful for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been kind of following you on Instagram, and when you announced your pregnancy, you also talked a little bit about like a cocoon period. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. Tell me a little bit about that, because I really relate to that. I don't think it for me, I would label it as a complete cocoon, but it was definitely like just a going inward, because you're basically forced to pay more attention to your body, and there's this other being in you who's kind of part of your experience now. And so one way or another, you're in like a different world almost. Is that what is maybe that's what you're feeling as well?
Yeah, when I kind of spoke out about that, it really came down to I really wanted to like protect my experience. I really wanted it to be mine and the babies and my husband's. So we honestly didn't share publicly. Like we shared it with our close family and friends, anyone we saw earlier on. But when it came to kind of more of that public announcement that we see so common these days, I really wanted to protect that. I just felt like I wanted to experience it firsthand. And this is kind of my approach to life in general, is I really have to jump 2 feet into things and experience them fully for myself. If I kind of ask somebody, hey, what was this like? It kind of like falls a little bit on deaf ears for me, because I really have to get in there to experience it, to really absorb what that was like. And that's really how I approached the pregnancy. I really wanted to kind of protect us, like me and the baby, and without kind of everyone's opinion or story or their experience, and really just feel it for myself. So for the first, I think it was probably about a month ago, we probably announced, I think more generally,
Yeah.
what that was, that cocoon phase. And it was really about protecting this experience and me really kind of putting blinders onto the world so I could really feel into my body, the baby, what we wanted to do, our approach, kind of what our experience was going to be like, and kind of how everything was going to unfold, if that makes sense. So I just feel in general that there's a lot of negative stories, or just a lot of heaviness that can come up around pregnancy, and everyone's journey is so different. And I'm so, again, grateful for mine. And I know not everyone's is like that, but I just felt like if I was going to absorb all of that, I would start kind of maybe coming from a bit of more of like a fear base
Yeah.
or worry, or other people's stories kind of impacting mine and really adding to that fear, where I really wanted to just like trust my body, trust the baby, trust this experience, that it was going to be exactly how it was supposed to be for us. And that's really what that cocoon phase was really protecting that. And I truly feel like that was the right decision for us. And it just allowed me to build this foundation of what I wanted the pregnancy to look and feel like, and also how I wanted to plan for the birth that's about to happen.
Right.
And that's really been able to kind of, build that strong foundation for us to kind of go into it very much how we want to execute it and how we want it to be and feel and experience. And And yeah, does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah, no. I agree. I think the beauty of social media is we get to see all the different options, but then, like you said, sometimes it can be a distraction.
Mhm.
And I think there is pressure to like share everything. And it's like, well, actually, no, you need to, just be intentional, think about it, or experiment. Like we've all gone through different phases of sharing, maybe a little too much, didn't feel right, or just different moments where, and with pregnancy too, everybody, like you said, is very different. My pregnancy as well was, I felt fine most of it. I mean, I think I went through a little bit of nausea at the beginning, but it wasn't like there was no vomiting. I didn't have like horrible, like debilitating, like yeah, some women have like really debilitating pregnancies, and that's totally valid. So it can feel like, oh, is there something wrong with me? I'm not suffering enough,
100%. Yeah. Like you hear other people's stories and also too, like with anything, there's unsolicited advice. You announce
Oh my
something and
God, yes.
people, and I love that piece. Like, I think there's a place for it and there's a place for like us to relate and connect to each other.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's also a place for that cocoon to be able to
Mm-hmm.
protect your story and be able to put blinders onto the world. And that's in
Mm-hmm.
anything. And I also felt, and I don't know, maybe if you felt that because I had such an easy first trimester and then the second was so great. And even the third, there's been times where I have felt a lot of guilt for having such a great, easy, peaceful experience so far. And I haven't felt safe in certain situations to share that,
Yeah.
where I kind of always felt like, or in some situations or around certain people, I have felt that it was kind of like a battle of who had it worse
Right.
and came out on the other side. And it was just, and I just felt weird sharing that, like, oh, like this is what I did, or this is what we did, or this was my approach when something did come up, or whatever. And it just put me in a really weird space. And I like this whole pregnancy has been such a reflection and such a like kind of like observing and reflecting on certain things. And it really like brings up kind of like what you value and
Mm-hmm.
how to make choices and you make decisions from a very different place because you're making it from a protective space of your
Mm-hmm.
baby. So yeah, it's been an interesting, like kind of emotional roller coaster, really navigating other people and their experiences, but also my own at the same time.
Totally. Yeah. I think it's pregnancy and babies are just triggering because also, like, just until recently, women have been able to express, like, you can imagine how many years, like, there was just no space for us to even talk about and share the experience and all the different versions of that experience. And yeah, I really relate to that. Like in the pregnancy, I definitely came out on Instagram like sooner than you, but I found there were so many different, yeah, stories. And I was lucky, like we found actually a really good um doula slash midwife like program, me and my partner. And that helped us because we found a community where it was very like neutral. Like there were all other pregnant couples and it was like everything goes, right? And so that helped us build that foundation where it was like everything outside that, it was like people will just, oh, your tummy is too small, your tummy's too big, like there was all the different opinions, right? It was like, but just finding that safe space where you feel like the right medical professionals are and the right whatever other type of professional you need, right? But
Totally.
yeah, I remember turning to my partner and saying to him, like, it feels to me like Christmas every day. Like my pregnancy felt like that, like every day was
Oh,
just so special. And of course, there were like by the end, yeah, I couldn't tie my own shoes, but
oh
it
yeah.
felt like Christmas.
I know, me trying to shoulder check while driving, I'm like, oh, that's really difficult now. Like there's certain things now that the baby's grown quite a bit, but yeah, that's so funny. And I agree with you. I think building your team out is so important and figuring out what that looks like for you. And it can be, like an OBGYN, it can be a doctor, whatever that is for you. For us, it's yeah, we have a midwife and we have a doula and we're preparing for a home birth. And I just built out this amazing team and the classes we took were really interesting. And it was like, it fed kind of what my beliefs were. And it's called hypnobirthing. So it's all about like calm breathing and meditation and really trying to get into a very different headspace when you're giving birth. And they all just kind of overlapped and complemented each other. And I just at this point feel so supported by the team that we've created. And I think that's so important. And I don't know if I would have made those same decisions if I would have came out early, hearing a lot of other people's fears or stories or, and then I that potentially could have affected who I brought on as a team. Absolutely. Or how we plan to have birth. And you never know what's going to happen. And we're open to all things and grateful for the medical system that is there if needed. And but yeah, it's such an interesting journey.
Yeah. So let's talk about how this has impacted your business, right? So tell us, maybe for those of listening, don't know, like, tell us a little bit about your business, and then just tell me how just everything has impacted kind of going forward now for you.
Yeah, totally. So I own a company called Whoosh. We launched in September 2018, so the end of 2018. And it is a online wellness business. We really focus on creating all natural remedies. So through teas, tinctures, and then kind of accessories to complement that. And basically, I've been doing that for the past however long that's been, like almost 5 years, I guess, something like that. I could be wrong. Mm-hmm. And it's been, this was just an idea that I had that really stemmed from my travels overseas, kind of throughout my 20s, where I was really able to kind of see other cultures, just how they utilized herbs in their like natural day, in their kind of like everyday life, from using it for medical, but also using it for, just kind of like ceremonial or within their cooking culture or whatever it may have been, but they really relied on it. And I felt like we were missing that kind of in North America. And I really wanted to kind of embed the natural benefits of herbs in our daily life and in our daily routines. And that's really where it comes from. So this idea just stemmed from that, built it from nothing. And then obviously built it over the past 5 years. And I'm so proud of what I've created and the team that really helped support it along the way, and everyone that kind of had a hand in it, you included. And you still have a hand in it, just like the mark that you left on our SEO is still so impactful to this day and is such an asset to us. And it's been such a wild ride. It was kind of like the first year was really about testing the market. What are people after? Proving our concept. Does this work? Does this not work? And so really kind of playing with the market. And again, that trial and error, me jumping 2 feet into everything. That's really what it was. And then kind of at the end of year 1, I was sitting there and I was kind of more chasing that kind of the success framework of people around me. So again, kind of relating that back to looking externally and being like, how did they get to this point or this milestone or this marker? And I felt like I was chasing someone else's framework of success. And I kind of had to repivot the business and be like, that isn't really where we want to position ourselves. We were trying to position ourselves in like grocery stores and big box stores, where I was like, no, this product's a lot more intentional, a lot more boutique. So we kind of pivoted back and scaled it back a little bit, if that makes sense. And then kind of from there, we kind of really hit the ground running, and we really, added in, we brought on you for the SEO. We brought on like a marketing manager. We brought on social media people. We brought on like all these key people with like really essential skills to help us really grow the business online. And it was going so well, and it was really exciting, and we were on this upward trajectory, and it was really great. And I was able to work with such amazing people. And then obviously COVID happened, and funny enough, the first year of COVID really was a great year for us because everyone was really focused on wellness.
Right.
Home and that like kind of that comforting bit. So that was really great. And then kind of post that, we've definitely felt like the hit of the impact of COVID after that, in certain ways in the business. And it's been a little bit of, to be honest, like, a little bit of a struggle of kind of what to do next, where to take it, how to get kind of back on that trajectory. And then kind of coming into so many different life changes, we moved cities. And then and then we moved to like 5 acres, and now we're living kind of out in the mountains, and then we wanted to start a family. And what I really kind of noticed with kind of preparing for that family stage was you really start questioning your values and how you want to spend your days and what that looks like. And now I've kind of come to the point where I'm so proud of what we've created, and we've built this really solid foundation for Whoosh to really like expand and grow from. But I just don't personally have the capacity to kind of blow it up or give it the attention that it really, really needs at this point. So kind of over the past 6 months was when I really thought long and hard about the hard decision to sell it. And that's kind of where it's brought us to and this little baby kind of put the pressure on making that decision and what that looks like for me. So that's where we're currently at. And so we're just kind of in the talks with a few different buyers of what that could potentially look like, and just finding the right buyer that's really going to be able to take that foundation and that vision and really kind of run with it.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I love that. And it's so fascinating how, like, you probably would have gotten there with or without baby, right? But it does get to question, having another being coming into your life, you start to realize, like, not just your values by yourself, but as a family, right? And so, and how you're going to live that, right? Because that's what the baby and the new human sees, right? They see how you're living your life, right? Not just what you're saying you're going to do, but what you actually do. And so suddenly it's like, I found, like, there's just no more excuses. Like I can't bullshit I can't bullshit this little baby. I don't know if that's like the experience you had too. It sounds like maybe the questioning and the introspection, right? A part of that feeling into your body.
Oh, 100%. It really came down to, like, who do I want to be as a mom, and who do I want to be as a person,
Right.
like as a mom and attached to this baby, but also as an example of like who I am individually. Like I'm going to be setting an example for this baby. And I think it's really important I can only be my best self if I can show up for myself and really like give that example to our child. And I felt like it kind of came down to like a lot of reflecting, and it was a back and forth. Like I had like my dear friends, Jesus, they were like, Cass, you've been talking about this for so long. And I was hanging on to different elements of it for what, like at first, of course, it's like, oh, you have to sell a business. Oh, you failed. Or I just debated kind of like closing it down. Mm-hmm. And then when I kind of got into that, I was like, I just really like the emails I get every day and like the comments we get. I know that the world still needs it. And I'm so proud of what we created, and it's so impactful, and it's still impacting people's lives in such a positive way that I just feel like its life isn't ended or over, sorry. And I feel that like, the world just like, people still love it so much. And I'm like, why would I take that away? I just need to remove myself from it. So it was like, I need to separate myself from the identity of Whoosh. So that was kind of like the first delayering, was like, I can still move on and it can still live on and we can be separate. And then I was really hung up on the brand. And I was like, well, I've built this brand and I've been a really big front facing of it. And I was like, but I feel like so connected to the brand. So I was like, maybe I would. So then I was trying to figure out very unique ways of kind of like selling, I guess, the formulations and getting someone else to rebrand them and that kind of thing. And that was an interesting phase. And I was like, but why am I so hung up on the brand? Like I can create another brand or whatever. And then that really drove me into this reflection space that I love the creation portion of it. I loved creating something from nothing. Yeah. And really building out this whole story and this whole meaning behind something, and bringing something physical into the world that really like impacted people in a day-to-day basis. And when I realized that, I was like, if I love that phase so much, and that's how I want to spend my day to day, is the creation portion, is like, then it's like I can fully let go of that. I don't need the brand to be able to do that. I can just do it
Right.
in a new facet.
Right.
So there was a lot of kind of like delayering of trying and really getting to the root of why I was so hung up on it,
Yeah.
and kind of and then going through that grieving process of like letting bits and pieces of it go. And then I'm a type of person where I kind of have to try something on. So I like had to like mentally and energetically like try on, like, I'm no longer Whoosh. I'm no longer the tea lady. Like I really had to step into that and feel what that was like. And when I kind of did that practice, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready. And that's when I made like the hard decision to really just to let it go and to kind of open up that space for someone to come in and to buy it. And since I've done that, like the biggest weight has been lifted off my shoulders. I feel like I'm stepping into this new version of myself, because I feel like when you're pregnant, you're kind of grieving and letting go of this old version of yourself. And, 5 years ago when I created Whoosh, I'm a very different person today. And I've discovered and learned so much through that business and building it and growing it, and through this kind of cocoon phase too. And I just feel like I have such a deeper understanding of myself and who I want to show up as. And that leads into kind of like what I want my day-to-day to look like. And what I loved about Whoosh was, in the beginning, it's like you're doing all the things and you're creating all of these different things and elements. And it made your day like very different all the time. And that's
Right.
what I love so much. It's like, I love the variety. I don't want to do the same thing every day.
Yeah.
So really what it comes down to is like, how can I cultivate all these different aspects that I've noticed that I love that while creating Whoosh, and like create a whole new business that
Yeah.
really feeds that for kind of what's coming, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, I love the identity piece, because I felt like my body was changing so much. Like, you look really different, right? Like your face, like even some people say factions of your face change, and like and so it's almost like you have this opportunity to become, you are a different person, and so you get to reinvent yourself. And that happens, FYI, into momhood too. Like, there's this huge breaking of identity, and some things are very aggressive. I mean, again, in my experience, at least, like, just some things felt like ripping off the Band-Aid, and it was like, I don't want to be this way anymore. What is the next thing? Like, it's like you're on a cliff, and it's like, what's the next jump? Like, you got to do it. And so that's exciting, because it does allow you to just become more flexible in being the person you really want to be, instead of using it to hold you back. And I think a lot of moms sometimes feel the opposite, like having a baby like limits them almost, like, to not, but I feel like it can be like a leap forward of like, okay, this is who I want to become, while also, taking care of another being, and all the things that happen there, right? And all the kind of like this other, you get this other job, right? And you learn all these new skills. You're going to definitely have like all these new skills you're going to learn, and day to day will be very different. So that will be fun.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it puts pressure on kind of the bullshit we've all been hanging on to a little bit. It
Yes,
really is
totally.
just like, are you still gonna still do this like on a
Yeah.
day to day? Are you still gonna put up with,
Hmm.
maybe it's something that feels really heavy, and that's
Hmm.
kind of something that it got to a point where Whoosh was feeling heavy for me, and
Yeah.
it has nothing to reflect on the business. It's just that that's just where I am in my life, and
Hmm.
as a founder and as an entrepreneur, is letting go of that chapter and taking everything that I learned from it. And when I let go of it, it's already created, because I've energetically let go of it and allowed, like, okay, buyers to come in.
Yeah.
It's like, it's allowed so much creative space to open up. Like, I feel so much lighter and I feel so much more creative. And it just feels like, holy shit, I've learned so much. And now I just get to like really step into that and like create from that space
Yeah.
while bringing in this new baby. And then it's just so much more exciting, because it's like, wow, like if I can teach my child anything, it would be this process. It would be to, do go after what you love, create it. And when you realize that it's time to let go of it, let go of it, and then do something else. And and there's nothing wrong with that. And so it's so crazy how like this little human can just kind of like shift all of your perspectives upside down. You question everything. And and if you're willing to kind of look at it and really like dig into it and ask the questions and really get to the root of it, the other side of it, I think, is just going to be so much more powerful for you and for the baby, and for what like we kind of just teach the baby as being ourselves, but as being a mom.
Totally. Yeah. So last little thing, and I mean, we could probably have a whole other episode about this, but like, tell me about how you've been planning. Okay, I'll tell you to give you a little break so you can get your breath back. So I was obsessed with my maternity leave because I was struggling with the thought of like just not knowing, because like you said, there's so many different experiences. There's moms that get the nanny, there's moms that become full-time moms. Like, so I let myself explore kind of all the options. And I allowed myself to say, look, if I was like, this is not going to happen. I'm not going to want to become a full-time mom, but I just let myself like, if that happens, Cynthia, just go there. But I did plan a maternity leave where I was working less hours. I had my team covering like the basics. We had client deliverables that we had to, kind of obviously deliver. But then everything else was like automated. I think I recorded 3 months of podcasts, which I'm so proud of. Like I was able to kind of stay fairly consistent with what the company was putting out at the time. And then there were some things I scaled back. Absolutely. And then what happened? So for me, my experience was, I think I took probably, like almost a month, I would say I was almost fully offline, but never fully because I was checking in with my team. And then after the month, I started to kind of get back in, but it was very, very chill. Like from my phone, I would check in with my team. And I think probably at the 3-month mark, I was starting to feel that itch to kind of get back into things. And now my daughter just turned, she's a year, so 14 months approximately. She'll be 14 months next week. And now I'm working 15 to 20 hours a week. And I am really focused on handing all the things. So kind of like you, the questioning was like, what are the things I really don't feel like doing? And I'm in the process of just getting as honest as I can about that. And then offboarding, training, interviewing people. And what I'm realizing is that I should have done this earlier, of like, just being honest of like, I don't want to do this stuff. Because there's a lot of shame around like, well, I should be able to, as an SEO expert, it's like, well, I should be obsessed with, I don't know, exporting and data reporting, sort of technical things there. And it was like, well, what if I'm not like, and so now I interviewed someone who loves that. And I was like, well, this should have happened way longer, before, because this is going to serve my clients. So I realized like, just taking myself out of that, kind of like what you did, but realizing the company, needs different types of roles and people, and you don't have to be all of that. So, but my question is, what is your maternity leave looking like? What have you planned? And what are you like, what's your vision for it, I guess, at this point?
Yeah. No, I think your story is such a great example for someone who wanted to sustain their business and like keep it going at the level and capacity it was operating at. And I'm a big believer in outsourcing. Like again, going back to Whoosh, like I built a foundation for it to really run like kind of on autopilot. That's kind of how it's running right now, to be honest. Like I really don't do much behind the scenes other than kind of like managing things. So yeah, I mean, I definitely thought we would be farther along in the selling process by the time I'm about to have the baby, but there's a lot of conversations going on right now, and it is going to take time. It's kind of a big transfer. So I think for me, it's just my maternity leave, I'm really leaving it very open and really wanting to create that space where I can be super present in the here and now with the baby and giving that my full attention. And that's really my number one priority. And I feel like even already, as I said, like energetically letting go of Whoosh and like being in this creative space, it's already calling me to be very like here now and present.
Yeah.
And very much just like I'm in this like observing kind of phase where certain like people or conversations or just kind of things that keep happening, I just know that they're just so meant to be happening right now for this next phase.
Yeah.
And for what's coming. And I feel so creative. So like there's days where I'm just like in Google Docs, just like creating like business concepts. And like my husband and I we kind of have a few things in the works right now that we're still developing and like kind of trying to bring to life. But I'm really letting go of that like timeline where I felt with Whoosh, it was like, here's the big picture. This is the concept that I have for Whoosh, and this is where I want to take it. And I was basically taking that big picture and kind of going backwards and building it that way.
Right.
Where with this next phase and this next kind of entrepreneurial journey that I'm on, I'm kind of reversing that. I'm starting with like the here and now, the little details, and really like just taking these baby steps that come in the day to day and just like, what do I feel like doing? What do I love to do? You know, where do I want to be spending my time? And taking that approach into my maternity leave with the baby, but also balancing alone time and balancing time for work and creativity and that space to kind of create this next iteration or this next idea, which I think in my mind is going to be very multifaceted. And yeah, I just feel like that's kind of my mentality going into it and really allowing it all to kind of unfold in front of me rather than me setting like, this is how I kind of want it to be, or this is how I see it, and working back step by step. It's kind of like, you know, people set the goal and then they're like, okay, here's the 10 steps that are going to get me there. I'm like, I'm just going to be at step 1 and I'm going to hang out there and I'm going to like absorb and react and pivot and adjust as needed. And I feel like that's what's going to get me into this kind of next iteration of being, of who I am as a mom, and then who I am as an entrepreneur. And I feel like that's kind of the approach that I want to like give example to my baby as well.
I love that. No, I feel like that's what ended up happening for me in many ways, but I was struggling with, there is a control thing I'm working on it and I think that could be just how, you know, you run your business ongoing, like again, like with or without baby. But yeah, I think there is this obsession with the steps, and I don't know if that's exists anymore. Like there's just so many variations online, and so it's really an opportunity to just find your way and really focus on what feels good, but also what's like feels the most satisfying, like when you're helping others with whatever problem you solve for them, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
And I feel like babies teach you so much. Like I am just so excited to absorb who this little human is going to be, and kind of again referring back to that cocoon, like we haven't found out the sex of the baby because I really didn't want to like,
that's exciting.
kind of like, you know, thinking like, or like kind of projecting who this person was going to be. I'm like, I want them to come into the world and like show me who they are, and like I just want to absorb who they are and what they are here to teach me. And you know, a decision I make today is probably going to be very different when they're in my life, like physically. And so I just feel like just allowing that space to kind of just unfold without any pressure. And again, I'm grateful that I'm in a position that I can do that. And I know that in some scenarios, like my attention is going to be called to this sale, and I'm going to have, there's, you know, a lot of work to do to get a business ready to sell.
Right.
Well, there's definitely going to have to be some kind of balancing with that, but I think that will all kind of unfold as it needs and when it's ready, and just trusting the timing of things. Honestly, it's kind of like if we can let go of that grip a little bit, there's so much to be learned in this journey rather than always thinking big picture and always thinking about that final destination.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, I looking back, all the things I was worried about, like nothing came true, but it was also even, it's not even that like to me it was helpful to have like plan A, plan B, plan C, whatever, but like it was almost like a whole other dimension opened up. And it's not that I wasn't ready for that, but it was more about that day to day. Because even if I had planned, like it's almost like the result now of what we've built or what I've built has been a kind of combination of many things. And it's still being built. That's the other thing, right? Because you'll find something that feels good this week, but then next week it's like you're gonna constantly being adapt because the baby grows really fast. And they one day they're just lying there on the floor under, you got some toys, whatever. And then in a couple months they're walking or they're moving. And so you have to be flexible. And I think that's you're going to be so fine. Oh my God.
No, I
And yeah.
agree. I think it's going to go so fast. And like,
Yeah, even the pregnancy.
yeah, it's just going to, and I want to absorb it all.
Yeah.
And yeah, just take all the lessons to be learned. And I know that that's such an essential part of what is next and what I do create. And
Yeah.
And the baby's probably going to have the biggest impact on that I can't even fathom right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
oh, I could keep talking about this. There's so many good pockets. Well, it was so great. Thanks for sharing and opening up. And if you want to, I know you're in the middle, obviously, of a transition, but if someone wants to follow you in that transition, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are in this or planning or, thinking about it. And it's just great to have different voices speak their experience.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, anyone who's interested, I've kind of more turned on a personal brand just to kind of share the journey so far as we come out of that cocoon phase. So you can follow me on Instagram at Cassandra, Cassandra Vantriet, Vantriet on Instagram. And then you can fully shop, explore Woosh on our website, which is Woosh, WOASH, wellness.com, and everything's available there as well. So yeah, I'm excited to just kind of reconnect with the world as I took that kind of year break off Instagram and just, reconnect in this new phase. And I think it's really exciting to share our stories when we're ready and in the space and capacity that we can. So
yeah, we'll have to catch up once the baby arrives and once you're feeling the, inspiration to speak again. Cause I've also, like I've mentioned to you, I did 2 episodes on the post baby, and it's been great. It's been really
I'd love to reconnect again, and then we'll see how much of all this aligns.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Cassie.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, Cynthia here. I wanted to just say thank you so much for listening to the podcast. And if you want to check out show notes and just additional resources for each podcast episode, you can head on over to digitalbloomiq.com/podcast. And there are show notes for each episode. And again, if you found this episode helpful, you can subscribe, rate and review, and share it with a fellow online business owner or someone you think would find it just beneficial. And this just allows more people like you to find the podcast and grow their businesses and make that meaningful impact that we're all looking to make. So thank you again for listening, and I will catch you on next week's episode. Bye.